The Fantastic Four First Steps just passed its 6th weekend in theaters. It made about $5 million. It sits at $265 million domestically, and I think there's a reason why it's not reaching the level that many predicted it would. This was supposed to be the resurgence of the MCU. People waited years for the Fantastic Four to show up in this universe, and the movie's just not doing what everyone thought it was going to do. A lot of people will point to, well, superhero movies in general are on the decline, and the MCU itself really hasn't been that good since Endgame. A few highlights throughout, but overall their quality is down. But I'm here to ask you to think about one more aspect of why maybe this movie didn't do so well, and that's oversaturation. Not of superhero movies, not of the MCU in general, but of a certain actor, Pedro Pascal, who plays Reed Richards in the movie. Is he a good actor? Well, that's up to you to decide. I mean, that's an opinion-based thing. If you think he's great, that's awesome. I think he's okay for the most part, but I do think he's becoming very oversaturated in the market. So I wanted to look at his career versus a couple of other actors to see if we do think maybe he's in way too many projects per year and he's just not drawing the fans in like he used to, or maybe he never really has. So let's take a look at Pedro Pascal's career to see how many projects he's been in over the last 11 years. Why 11 years? Well, because I felt like it. And how I did this is I did TV shows every single season. If it was a new calendar year, I included it also under that year. So this will be the total amount of times you saw him in projects per year since 2015. Back in 2015, Pedro Pascal was in 4 projects that year, with things like Exposed, which was a TV movie, and Narcos Season 1. In 2016, he was in another 3 projects like The Great Wall. 2017 was Kingsman: The Golden Circle and another season of Narcos. 2018, 3 projects like The Equalizer 2 and If Beale Street Could Talk. 2019, he was in 2 projects only, but The Mandalorian Season 1 happened that year. 2020, he was in Wonder Woman 1984 and 2 other projects, but he did give us a break in 2021. We did not see him on any screen during that year. In 2022, he was back again with another 3 projects. In 2023, he hit us with just 2 projects, The Mandalorian, another season, and The Last of Us Season 1, a very big show. In 2024, he did 5 different projects that year. Freaky Tales, Drive-Away Dolls, The Uninvited, The Wild Robot, in which he was a voice, and Gladiator 2. And then in 2025, this year, he did The Last of Us Season 2, again, a very big show, many people watched it, a small movie called Eddington, The Materialists, actually I think it's just Materialists, no the, and The Fantastic Four First Steps. Over this 11 years, Pedro Pascal has done 31 total projects, for an average of 2.8 per year. That's just too high. I do not need to see Pedro Pascal 3 times per year on either my television screen or in theaters. That's just oversaturating the market. I understand in this business you need to capitalize on your 15 minutes and get what you can get. But is there a reason why modern movie stars are slowly falling out of favor compared to people from the past? Movie stars used to be able to sell movies for decades, and now you come in, you get your 5, maybe 10 years at most of kind of being really popular and people wanting to see your movies, and then you fade away. But there are stars from the past that have been able to go for decades, still selling out movies. But before we get to that star, which you might be able to tell who we're going to talk about from a clue in the background, but before we get there, we're going to talk about Chris Pratt, who I do think people are kind of sick of. He was oversaturated in the market. People complain constantly. Chris Pratt's in this again? So let's look at his career compared to Pedro Pascal to see kind of the trend that we're going on. Chris Pratt kind of hit the scene in 2003. So the first 11 years we're going to look at is 2003 to 2013. During that time, he was in 29 total projects, with movies like Wanted in 2008, Bride Wars in 2009. He starred in Parks and Rec, the TV series, for every single year. And then in 2011, he did 6 projects that year. It's way too many projects in one year. But 29 over that 11 years mean he was averaging 2.6 projects per year. Again, not as high as Pedro Pascal, but still incredibly high. And that's maybe when people started to realize, like, we like him, but maybe he's doing too much. Then from 2014 all the way through 2025, which is actually a 12-year span this time because I didn't want to do a single year by itself, he was in movies like the Lego Movie in 2014, he did the Jurassic World series during this time, and the Guardians of the Galaxy series. He did 25 total projects over this 12 years for an average of 2.1 per year. Still, 0.7 lower than Pedro Pascal has done over the last 11 years, and people are still kind of fed up with Chris Pratt saying, stop putting him in everything. And I kind of agree with that. Please, stop putting Chris Pratt in everything. He's not the voice of Mario. He's not the voice of Garfield. Please stop doing that. But still, not as high. But let's look at Tom Cruise, the man who's had a career for decades, and see what his average was in each of the 11 years of his career. We're going all the way back to 1981 for this, where he first starred in Endless Love and Taps, 2 projects. But during this 11-year stretch from 1981 to 1991, he didn't appear in a movie in 1984, 1987, and 1991. And this is when he was really coming on the scene with movies like The Outsiders, Risky Business, Top Gun in 1986, Rain Man in 88, and Days of Thunder in 1990. And during this 11-year stretch, he only appeared in 13 projects for 1.2 per year. Then from 1992 to 2002, which is when I think he might have been at the height of his powers, the most popular, he did movies like A Few Good Men, Interview with the Vampire, Mission Impossible, Jerry Maguire, Eyes Wide Shut and Magnolia, and Minority Report. And yet still, over this time, he only did 12 projects for 1.1 per year. 2003 to 2013, he did 12 projects for 1.1 per year. And finally, from 2014 to 2025, this 12-year stretch, he only did 9 total projects for 0.8 per year. Do we see how the difference is between him and Pedro Pascal? For an 11-year period for Pedro, it's 2.8 per year. Way too many. Cruise, who's had a very long, very prolific career, he never averaged more than 1.2 projects per year. 1 time per year on my screen, perfect. And you want to take a year off here and there? Even better. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think about this? Do you think some actors and actresses are oversaturated in the market? Until I see you again, just remember to be good to yourself, kind to others, and keep watching movies.